Before this episode starts, I want to address a tweet that was sent out by our former co host Natasha Gershon last week. On behalf of myself, Trevor, and the rest of BackSportsPage, what she said in that tweet goes against everything we stand for, and I want to offer an apology to the family of Ben Stelter, the Edmonton Oilers, their fans, as well as the rest of the NHL community. Moving forward, Natasha Gershon will no longer be a part of BackSportsPage or Wrinkles in the Crease. Welcome to another episode of Wrinkles in the Crease, where we take a look at the stories in hockey and iron out the details. I am your host, Zachary Morgan, and I am joined, as always, but a little bit differently, by my co-host, Trevor Neal, the less than real deal. Trevor,
Deal,
what's
Trevor
going on,
Neal.
buddy?
I'm doing great, Zach. I'm glad to be back. We're finally
Glad
recording
to be
again.
back indeed, yeah. Had a lovely trip to Mexico, but we'll talk more about that later. And today we are joined by the VP of Operations and Audio Content over at BackSportsPage and noted Rangers fan, Ryan Stern. Ryan, welcome to Wrinkles and Crease. How are you doing,
guys? I'm doing wonderful. I listen to your show all the time. I love the banter. It's basically our Backsports Page hockey group chat in audio form. I love it. The only thing that's going to be different about this one is we're not going to have Rob just saying how much he hates the Robo Penguin logo.
No, he loves the Robo
no,
Penguin logo. Yeah. I'm saving you now before that hits the public.
I know that was the joke.
Pain.
Now right over my head.
Pain is what every team that was hoping the Islanders, actually the owners of that Robo Penguin logo, the Pittsburgh Penguins, that is exactly what they were thinking tonight as the final seconds ticked away. The playoff picture is somewhat set with the Islanders winning 4-2 over the Montreal Canadiens. They make sure that we do not have to look at the Robo Penguin for the rest of the year. And well, as much as even though that kind of locks up the last spot in the playoffs, there's no matchup set aside from Leafs Lightning.
The cursed one.
The cursed one?
The one that we knew was going to happen in Thanksgiving.
Oh, boy. Well, we will be sure to get into that in a little bit.
I can't wait.
Yeah. So, with their opponent to be determined, the Islanders could either play whichever team wins the Metropolitan Division, which could be the Carolina Hurricanes, it could be the New Jersey Devils, or the Boston Bruins.
I know who I want.
Of course, you don't say. The playoff picture is a bit limited, though, because, of course, the Carolina Hurricanes and the Florida Panthers, who have clinched the second wildcard spot, they will play each other. So, the Panthers win. If the Panthers win and the Devils win, the Devils will play the Panthers in the first round. If the Hurricanes win, Devils will play the Rangers in the first round. That is how that will shape out. For reasons that are quite obvious, I'm not exactly sure what needs to happen for the rest of the matchups to fall in place. I do know that the Pacific could go either way at this point.
The Pacific the Central isn't done yet because Dallas and Colorado can still flip. Dallas has a 1-point lead, but Colorado has a game in hand in the Central.
Yes.
Keep your fingers crossed for the Dallas Stars because they desperately need to stay ahead.
Dallas Stars.
I don't want to play Minnesota.
Their road record's not bad, but I don't blame them for not wanting to play Minnesota.
They have a losing record this year against playoff teams. The easier they can get it, the better.
They're also famously very good in overtime and shootouts.
You getting there. Screw right off. You know how many times I drove 6 hours round trip to watch the Dallas Stars lose another game in overtime? I got so excited every time that maybe it's going to be the one game they turn in their little streak around. And it got to the point in postgame they were making fun of how bad they were.
Like they were also less than a second away from an additional point that one game against the Rangers when Keandre Miller scored with under a minute and then Foxy
Don't worry, I remember.
in overtime.
I remember.
Well, My favorite is when the Devils actually went down to Dallas, and what was it with like very few seconds left on the clock? They managed to tie the game, force overtime, and then they fell victim to a Dougie Hamilton stretch pass. And many teams have fallen victim to that this year. Yeah,
that was the one in New Jersey. Because the Devils just spanked them in Dallas.
Oh, that's my mistake then.
Yeah, no. Trust me, I was there. It was a long night. It was a long night in the building.
Yeah.
It was bad.
Well, the Devils...
Can we take a second to talk about Pittsburgh? Who's the story of today? That I grew up a Penguins fan. My family lives in Pittsburgh. The Penguins will always have a special place in my heart. And for the first time that I can remember, I don't get to watch them in the playoffs.
16 years. Longest streak in American pro sports.
Pro sports.
Of the four majors.
The longest active, I would hope.
Well, the longest
active.
Oh.
It's a damn shame, and there's no one to blame but themselves. They had to play the 30-second, and of course, Ron Hextall.
Yeah, no, that falls entirely on Ron Hextall. I think we're all in agreement there.
He's not coming back, right? It's a mistake to bring him back?
Yes. It's a mistake to bring back a very clear operative for the Philadelphia Flyers as your GM next year. What do you mean?
It was the mistake to bring him in the first place. He
had one goal in mind. It was not to build them up.
It was the same as Don Maloney being named the GM of the Islanders in the 90s when he was the Rangers operative.
I saw Ron Hextall at a Stars game, and I wanted just to tell him to F off. I was like, you sir ruined my childhood. Everything that I grew up watching is over because of you, sir. But thanks for bringing back Nick Bonino.
Oh, and you got Nick Bonino back.
Oh, Nick Bonino back really was the big fish of the trade deadline.
I mean,
that was a 3-team deal. He went through the effort of a 3-team trade to bring Nick Bonino to the Penguins.
That was the big trade deadline acquisition.
Yeah, I guess he's not the same without Hagelin and Kessel.
No,
he's not the same because he's like 85 years old now. Like
he wasn't young for those Stanley Cup runs. I was gonna say
he was he was like end of prime depth center kind of guy. He wasn't great on his own. He wasn't great by the time he left the Penguins, and they waited a few years and brought him back.
Well,
and then he ruptured a kidney.
I just want to add that context for, at the deadline, the Devils added Timo Meier, the Rangers got Vladimir Tarasenko, and then Patrick
some other guy,
Kane, and the Penguins got Nick Bonino.
Although the Leafs got O'Reilly, even they got big names at the trade deadline. And the Penguins got Michael Granlund and Nick Bonino.
Leave it to a Leafs fan to bring up the Leafs in a situation where we're just talking about hockey, minding our own business.
We've had this conversation in almost every episode. The earlier,
and I'm rebelling against it.
That the hockey world revolves around the Toronto Maple Leafs, the happier you are. You have to accept it. That every story comes back to them. Everything. There's no NHL without the Leafs.
Well, you say that as if just for that. So last night I was actually attending a hockey game, Ryan, and I don't know if you knew this, but hockey games can happen and not feature the Toronto Maple Leafs. So neither.
In fact, there's usually 3 rounds of hockey games that take place after the Leafs are done.
Yeah, that is a fact. That is fact. Over the last how many years would you say? Oh God.
This would be almost 8 in a row this year. If they lose this year, it'd be 8 in a row. 2004 was their last round win.
Yeah, so almost 20 years. That's it's a long time. But in that game that I saw, the Devils were hosting the Buffalo Sabres for the last home game of the regular season. Devils win 6-2, clinching home ice for the first round. Again, no one knows who they will play yet. Need to be determined tomorrow. That secures a 49-point improvement from last season. They had 61 points. The season's not even over. They're already at 110. I think, I don't know.
It's the biggest point turnaround.
It is the biggest point turnaround since they moved to an 82-game season, isn't it?
Yep.
So, hats off to them. Yep. Jack Hughes secured the franchise record for points in the season with his 97th on an empty net goal on a pass from the best player in the world, Jesper Bratt. Luke Hughes made his debut, which was fantastic.
The second best player in the NHL.
Second best player in the NHL.
and just think, the Devils' season started with Fire Lindy chants.
Yeah, no.
Go back and watch our first episode of Zach saying the Devils season's over. I should sell my season tickets. I'm done with this team. And then
I had a continued existential crisis that I started having towards the end of last season. I watched them lose pretty horribly to the Detroit Red Wings, where they made Alex Nedeljkovic look like a really good, viable NHL goaltender. And I that really broke me for a little bit. I'm going to be honest with you.
That game may have been the reason they got a third-round pick in return for him.
Probably, honestly. It is just... But what a season it's been. Luke Hughes might even play tomorrow night. I
hope he does.
I hope so, too. He looks really great. I mean, we saw sheltered minutes from him.
Yeah.
But the size is there. The confidence is there. It's not like that he was at all, looking frazzled. But it was his first game.
An easy game to come into.
Exactly. It's weird because after that first game against the Red Wings, I was looking forward to this because Luke Hughes would have, if the season had gone poorly, we might have seen 20 minutes of Luke Hughes. There's no reason we shouldn't have. The kid's ready. It's just the team. There's no reason to mess with chemistry at this point. And then
if the Devils season ends in a week and a half, is it still successful? We're all happy with everything that happened?
We're not
Do you
happy,
care?
But it's a huge success. The season's just in what Ryan and I brought up right there, with it being the largest point turnaround in 82-game season. You can't look at that and say it wasn't a success. The team was not expected to be anywhere near this.
Yeah.
It's bitter and disappointing if the season ends in a week and a half, though. But it stings. But for context,
looking at the big picture, it's a success because I think it was sort of like the transition from the 2019-2020 Rangers into the 21 Rangers, where
the Rangers that almost lost to Louis Domingue.
But they didn't.
This
was the year before. This was the year before, where we all thought that they were in the middle of a rebuild. That this was a team that was going to take a couple years because they were at the time the youngest team in the league, and we thought that they would be there somewhat soon. But it would. I had thought 3 years, and it happened in a year. So I think that it's a very similar transition that we saw with the Devils.
It's weird that we're seeing a trend of the rebuilds of just they happen overnight now. Because there's been a few that have just.
It's not so much that they're happening overnight, though. It's more that they're starting to come together seemingly overnight. The Devils have been putting this team together for years.
Yeah,
the core has been there for the past couple seasons. We knew it was going to be Jack Hughes, Nico Hischier, Jesper Bratt leading the pack. Obviously, the faces around them have changed. You added Timo Meier. In adding Timo Meier, I think that's kind of what puts more pressure on the team. If they don't get Timo Meier at the deadline, no matter how you slice it, it's a success and everyone's happy. Because they got Timo, it's hard to not want at least to get a series win.
And it would feel so good against New York too.
But it's understandable if they lose.
I just don't think enough people talk about the importance of bringing in Dougie Hamilton and what he has meant to that team, because what is it? Scott Niedermayer was the last time that you had a defenseman put up consistent points, and I think he actually broke the franchise record for
He
points
broke
by
the franchise
defenseman as
record for
well.
goals in a season, but it
Okay,
wasn't
yeah.
set by Scott Niedermayer. It was a Scott Stevens record, which threw me for a loop too. But that
Yeah,
was a
that's
Scott.
because
Yeah.
I guess in
Niedermayer
the
made a
real
point to never
early
focus on
'90s,
the
he
offensive numbers,
actually
though.
the right around the 93-94 season was when he transformed into the more physical stay-at-home defenseman. But when he was with Washington and St. Louis, he was known to be an offensive defenseman.
Yeah. Even when I went to go see the Devils live, the one player that impressed me more than any other was Dougie Hamilton.
Yeah.
And Jack Hughes had a good game, and he was impressive, but Dougie Hamilton stole the show.
The addition of Dougie Hamilton changed the entire complexion of the locker room. It gave you the serious guy to go alongside the PK
veteran
Subban
leadership
clown, and it worked out beautifully. This is a group of guys that really gelled well together, and you see it in the comments all the time. Nathan Bastian said, it's a really good group of young guys. You add in a few veterans, you start winning games, all of a sudden everyone's best friends. And
you can tell they have fun. You can tell they have a lot of fun.
It's a fun team. It's been a fun season. I can't argue that. And if they lose to the Rangers in the first round, it stings, but the season is still a success.
And you're going to be back better next year. You
100%.
Get Luke Hughes a full season of Luke Hughes. Sign me up.
Full season of Luke Hughes on the team. Possibly Simone Nemec also getting the call up. You add in the potential for a Tomas Tatar extension for a couple of years. If
another season, Jack Hughes.
Another season,
he's not
Jack
done
Hughes,
developing.
He's going
to get better.
You get the extensions done for Bratt and Meyer, but these are all problems that
don't matter
focused on after the
don't
playoffs.
Matter. Yeah.
Which the longer you can not focus on those problems, the happier the fan base is. That much I can promise you. On the other side of things, though, last night, we need to talk about this Devin Levi. He is.
If Buffalo had him a month before they did, they're in the playoffs. That's simple.
That's all. Simply put, if they had gotten him a month, 2 weeks earlier, they're in the playoffs. He is that good. He is. Next year the Buffalo Sabres are going to be a scary playoff team because that's their guy. That's who they've been waiting for, and he's been worth the wait.
You very rarely.
For them.
Oh shit! Oh, for them.
Yeah, Miller.
Ryan Miller,
and that was a long time ago now.
Yeah,
especially
in NHL terms, it's been a long time.
Him early, yeah, but
yeah,
it's very rare that you see a young goalie making his first couple starts in the NHL have the composure that he shows. He just always seems to be in control of his positioning and doesn't let a goal get to him, and he stays focused.
He was making incredible saves after getting cooked last night.
Yeah, the exact same thing was said about Carter Hart and Matt Murray, though. The exact same critique of composure.
I don't
Devin Levi seems better, though.
I'm going to be honest with you. Devin Levi is 6 foot flat.
He's only 6 foot.
How tall is Carter Hart? How tall is Matt Murray? Is gigantic.
Matt Murray's tall. Yeah, Matt Murray's a big boy.
We did not see the level of movement that we are seeing from post to post that we're seeing in Devin Levi. The kid flies from post to post. It's insane. There was a glove save he made last night where he had no business even being in the realm of it. And it was a clear as day glove save because he can just casually throw out a split and throw his glove above his head. And it's nothing. Nothing phases him.
I need to sit down and watch a Devin Levi game.
Watch Devin Levi's tape. This kid's going to be special for a long time.
Watch his debut game against the Rangers because watch the third period. The Rangers, and they did score 2 goals, but they should have had 7 goals that period. His debut game against the Rangers was one of those, and it happens to the Rangers all the damn time that a goalie is either making their debut or goalies making their first start in 793 days, and they look like Patrick Waugh out there. It just happens all the damn time.
Yeah, I'm excited for him though. Everything I've heard about this kid is that he might be like the future face of goaltending.
They're going to be a scary team next year, especially. It's going to be hard to expect a replication from Tage Thompson, but if he gives you 85% of what he gave you this year, that team's going to be scary.
The thing that makes me think that Tage Thompson might be able to sustain it is that he completely changed his style of play and training regimen ahead of this season, and that's when we saw the change. Like, this is just, I think it's what he is, and he finally found out how to do it. I could be wrong, but
I don't think it. I think if he can put up 85% next season, I feel like that's amazing.
Yeah.
No,
what Tage Thompson has done this year is incredible. I think he can keep it up, but honestly, there's no shame if he cannot put up these exact numbers. This season has been incredibly high scoring for many players that we just really didn't see it coming.
Buffalo was the highest scoring team in the league at one point.
And
and they couldn't save a beach ball for the longest time, but they could score.
No. They needed a save so bad, but
they needed Devin Levi, apparently.
They did.
You know who they could have used? Linus Ullmark.
That's gotta hurt to some extent for them. That really has to hurt.
Oh my gosh, he was a Sabre. I forgot.
Yeah, he was a Sabre up until what? The year before last?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, they look stupid for that one.
I mean, it's okay. It's okay.
It'll
be okay.
It's okay.
It's a very classically Buffalo thing. But you look at what they put on defense, Rasmus Dahlin and Owen Power are in your top 4. And it just gets better from there.
Yeah.
They're going to be I'm so excited for the inevitability when the Devils are in the playoffs and they meet the Buffalo Sabres. That's going to be a very good series. I'm excited for when the Buffalo Sabres
want Buffalo in the playoff series.
And also the goat head jerseys might be my favorite jerseys in all of hockey.
I said a lot of things about the reverse retros. Legitimately, the best reverse retro this year was the Buffalo goat head in the actual blue and white. That is gorgeous. How can you not?
See, I'm a fan of the goat head in the black and red and white.
The black and red is great, but I feel like
perfect.
I feel like the team has made a really strong point to go to the blue and gold. The blue and gold has kind of grown on me with them, and just seeing that white on white with the blue outline, that was really nice.
Buffalo turned into a good-looking team. They finally got rid of the ugly navy blue that they had for a while. And
going to royal blue is definitely the best move for them.
As a jersey nerd, I agree. The royal was much better than that hideous navy. And they're all yellow jersey they had at one point too. Don't forget about that.
I'm actually struggling to come up with a team that used navy as like a primary jersey where it's been legitimately good.
As a primary?
The best one I would say maybe is the Winnipeg Jets.
No, that's not a good jersey.
That's not a good jersey. I'm not a fan of the Jets. Look at the Islanders. Navy blue was awful.
Yeah, no, even they went back to the royal blue, which they should have never gone away from.
Those Oilers alternates.
The oil drip ones?
The oil drip
those are bad.
Those were bad. Yeah.
Do you count the Penguins dark blue ones? Those weren't navy though.
Those aren't navy.
I think that might be it then. We've
tried. If you disagree with that take, please let me know. Please.
Send us the best navy jerseys you can find.
Yes, and when we say best navy jerseys we can find, God damn it. We're just going to get a whole slew of the Stan Fischler fisherman jerseys. Because those were at one point the home and away jerseys for the Islanders. And I
want someone to send us a picture of a Michigan jersey.
I was at the first Ranger Islander game, the first installment of the Gorton Fisherman jerseys, and the whole night the crowd's chanting, "We want fish sticks. We want fish sticks."
That's
it was
amazing.
It was
fantastic.
so good.
Hockey fans are the best.
Oh,
That's perfect. Best atmosphere in all sports is a hockey game.
100%.
I'll die on that hill.
100%. I'll die on that hill holding your hand, Trevor. Easily.
Thank you. That's all. That's how I want to go out.
Yes, of course. But going back, we were talking a little bit about the Devils and following the path of the Rangers. It's very hard to not draw parallels between the two teams, is it not?
Mm-hmm.
Like they're very much going down a similar path. They were rebuilding around the same time. We won't talk about which team started their rebuilds when.
Don't think about it. Don't ask.
It
doesn't matter. That's the past.
But the Rangers did very much establish themselves early on that they were done with their rebuild. They made it clear. They made it known, and they went on a crazy run a couple years later. Now, what happens in these playoffs, we will see. But I do see similarities between the two teams that will definitely be, fingers crossed, at the top of their game for years to come.
Yeah, this isn't going to be the first time we see them in the playoffs. We're going to see it a
right,
lot.
and it doesn't happen often that all three of the New York area teams make the playoffs in the same year. When they do, this town buzzes hockey. And it's not often that this town buzzes hockey. And it may not do it as much because both the Knicks and the Nets are in the playoffs as well. And basketball usually takes precedence. But there is so much hockey buzz going on right now because all three teams are playing well going into the playoffs.
And Patrick Kane probably helped that too. Patrick Kane helped that big time. That's Patrick Kane.
Adding Patrick Kane to the
I think
Rangers.
that's more on the national level than it is in
the city.
In market. Yeah.
But it just fits so well. Patrick Kane just is
on Broadway.
He is Showtime. I mean, and that's what you get from New York. It pains me, but that was honestly the perfect matchup. I couldn't agree more with that.
There's a reason he wasn't going anywhere else.
Yeah.
Michael goddamn Bunting. The third greatest player in the NHL? Do we just keep on going down? Michael Bunting? If you went to like Walmart,
I'm gonna give you the floor here, really quickly, Trevor. The way I have been hearing about Michael Bunting, I'm not exaggerating here. I genuinely hope that they are literally like on a game by game basis. Like there's just one point in time where they stop the clocks and each team gets to take, all right, everyone gets a free cross check to Michael Bunting's face. If they're not doing that on a game by game basis, I do not want to hear about Michael Bunting anymore. I'm so tired of it. Please continue.
So the Michael Bunting story has been going on all year, but it's finally getting coverage because Leafs fans are fed up with it. But this is the second time in like this generation of Toronto Maple Leafs that this has happened to a player. And at the first half of the year, they drew the most penalties in the NHL. It was not close. And then people started talking about it. And as soon as it started like trending on Twitter, all of the refs went, can't let that happen anymore. And you can do whatever you want to the player. It was Kadri first, and now it's Bunting. Bunting was drawing so many penalties, and then 1 week, it's just all right. He's free game now. Like, if you hit Michael Bunting, he's going to get a penalty. If you watch a single Leafs game, it just consists of Michael Bunting trying his best to hide from people as he just gets mauled in the corners and then gets a penalty for it. It's awful. So, yes, when you say that every team's getting a chance cross-checking Michael Bunting, yes, they are, and then he sits in the penalty box for it. Do we not remember when a ref shoved him off of the ice?
That sounds
almost
fair.
hurt him.
That sounds reasonable.
He wasn't even doing anything. He was skating off, and the ref just pushed him.
Was his name Michael Bunting?
Yes, his name was Michael Bunting, who got pushed.
Well, then I see no problem here. Ryan, am I reading the rule book wrong?
No. all's fair in love and Michael Bunting.
Yes.
Michael Bunting is
also maybe
one of the
more,
best pests in the National Hockey League. If you want Brad Marchand and don't have the money for Brad Marchand, go get yourself a Michael Bunting. Same
It's been
job.
one season.
Not as
Are
good.
we really confident with that comparison this early?
Yeah, Brad Marchand has nightmares about Michael Bunting.
You're talking to somebody who gave his daughter the middle name Avery. So
Michael Bunting could beat up Sean Avery, maybe.
Not a fucking chance in hell.
You know what?
Doesn't matter. Neither of them would fight. Neither of them would fight.
No.
Oh
Michael
no,
Bunting's
Avery threw down.
Towards the end, Avery was more.
Towards the end,
little more than a pest, where he would immediately, as soon as someone grabbed him, he would do the ragdoll thing that
I feel like I've succeeded in this, in getting to talk about Michael Bunting, and your mind goes Sean Avery. Like that's the natural.
We were all sitting here. We were having a
good
time. We were making fun of Michael Bunting, and then we had to talk about Sean Avery. And now I'm just sad.
Excuse me, Zach. To you, it's Michael Bunting, 20 goal scorer. Michael Bunting. He's a first liner in the National Hockey League
this season.
Oh no.
Pavel Zacha.
Oh God.
Pavel Zacha scored his 20th goal of the season against none other than Mackenzie Blackwood, and that is just
because everyone on that damn team scored 20 goals.
Yes, but Pavel Zacha is a second line left winger on the Boston Bruins, while Taylor Hall is a third line left winger on the Boston Bruins.
We love it.
These are things that I have to cope with on a daily basis.
But Zach, you did put in our episode notes that I am allowed to go on a little.
Yeah, I didn't mean for this to transition to Pavel Zacha, but here we are. So Trevor is hoping that Pavel Zacha will play the Toronto Maple Leafs in the second round, probably.
Okay, Zach, honest opinion. Just give me yes or no. Do the Leafs have a good chance of beating Tampa?
Yes.
Yes.
Ignore the past.
No,
or should the Leafs win this series?
Should or can they?
Give me both.
On paper, they can, and perhaps they should. That being said, no one can sit here and just look at Tampa and say, oh, yeah, that's a tough out. Tampa is a legitimate threat to win a series, maybe two.
Yeah.
And in a down Tampa year, they can still Tampa.
It's still Tampa. Yeah.
Nikita Kucherov is still there.
And so is Andrei Vasilevsky. And when Andrei Vasilevsky is on, and he talk about a down year, but when Andrei Vasilevsky is on, there is no team, and including what I've seen with Igor Shesterkin last year, having one of the most incredible regular seasons by a goalie that I've seen. When Andrei Vasilevsky is on, there is no other team that can rely on their goalie more than the Tampa Bay Lightning.
And if there's one thing to say right now about his play, right, it is Andrei Vasilevsky, and then there's everyone else. It's been a down year for Tampa, and no one told him. This guy is insane.
Yeah. We could talk about Devin Levi and Shesterkin and
Linus Ullmark
all
too.
We want. Yeah, they are not in the same league.
No,
as Andrei Vasilevsky. But it is funny, and I will die on this hill. He did get outplayed by Jack Campbell in a playoff series last year. There we go. Yep, I said it.
Jack Campbell won that series.
Vasilevsky did technically.
Is anyone? Are we going to talk about anything else about that series? Is anyone going to look back at that series and say, "Hey, that was the year that Jake Campbell was in"? Jack Campbell was his net. See, that's exactly my point. That was the year Jack Campbell was in net, and he really outplayed the Lightning. They won the series then, right? No.
The thing that, and I know it's hard to isolate last year's Tampa series in the history of the Leafs. I wasn't as mad about that one as all the others. Because
it's hard to be mad when you lose to the defending national champions.
And it was the only series in which they finished series, and I was like, I don't think they did anything wrong. I think they played good enough to win. You play that series again this year, they play the exact same way. Toronto probably wins. Toronto probably should have won that series. They didn't shit the bed like they did against Montreal, and shit the bed like they did against Columbus and Boston and all that. No, they played a good series. Last year's Toronto team was different than years past. They just happened to lose again. I wrote that in an article. Leafs fans shouldn't be mad about that one. It's just the fact that it comes on the end of 5 straight winner-take-all losses. But no team in the league should be mad about losing to Colorado this year in the first round. Doesn't matter how good you are.
No.
If you lose to them, you lose to them. It's Nathan McKinnon.
Just saying, we went a half a season thinking that Colorado, that there was an outside shot they don't make the playoffs.
And they might win the Central. They probably will.
Yeah.
Which is a very good turnaround.
Yeah. Their second half should worry a lot of people in the West.
They do also play in a division. You have to take this into account with a bunch of teams trying their best not to win the division. Because Dallas went on a stretch where they did not want to win. Winnipeg fell apart at the halfway mark. And Minnesota injuries, and they also started to play
it's
bad
funny because Minnesota seemed to start playing better after the Kaprizov injury.
Yeah, they started to put it together. It's like they get a little extra treat now of Kaprizov.
Yeah, it almost makes you think, were they too reliant on Kaprizov when he was out there? And then when he's not out there, they all just pick up their game.
If you don't have the guy on the ice and you're used to having a guy who can bail you out of certain situations, taking him away from the team really shows you what you can actually do. Because you're right, that urgency has stepped up.
One of the most underrated players in the NHL right now is Ryan Hartman.
100%.
I don't want that guy in the playoff series.
Yeah,
I don't want the Wild in the series.
And you have him on a line with Zook, and all Zook does is score clutch goals. That's all he does.
Yeah, that's that.
Which, while we are on the topic of Ryan Hartman, he was disciplined by the NHL earlier today. He will be suspended for, I believe, the Wild's last game of the regular season for his check on Nikolai Ehlers.
It was a bad hit.
It was a bad hit. I think it was ruled a 2-minute minor. No?
I'm not sure. I did see something funny about this hit.
Yeah, penalized for interference. Yeah.
The post on it on Instagram, Bo Bennett commented under. He's been on this weird stretch recently where he's commenting under all NHL news. And every time Bo Bennett says something on social media, it catches my attention because there's no one that makes fun of Bo Bennett more than Bo Bennett.
Oh yeah, no, Bo Bennett's great about making fun.
He just simply commented under the Hartman hit. You can't do that. And he'll just comment people ask him, "Oh, do you remember this?" He'll go, "I was probably hurt."
That was kind of his thing. My favorite Bo Bennett moment in the NHL is that time he scored a goal for the Penguins after being hurt with a broken wrist. So he went and he banged on the glass after you score a goal and he broke his wrist.
My favorite hockey meme I've ever seen is a picture of Bo Bennett. I think he was with
the NHL's version of Gus Frerotte.
More or less, yeah. Yeah, exactly that.
The meme of Bo Bennett in the penalty box, he may have been a Devil. Was he a Devil at one point? Or is he just...
Yes, he was a Devil for a season.
Yeah. And there's a picture of him in the
put
penalty
up
box.
Great advanced stats and no real points. It was great.
And
it was a good
Bo
time.
Bennett's 2 minutes for his own safety. He should have been something special. I don't know how I got on topic of Bo Bennett, but he should have been special. But dude,
yeah,
he was in a body cast at all times.
So my favorite hockey meme, and it's not even something that was fake. And I don't know if it was a troll job by Root Sports or someone was just a complete idiot. When Bobrovsky was playing for Columbus, he had come in relief. And so they put up his name and his stats, and the name that they put up for Sergei Bobrovsky was Sergei Bubtitsky.
I remember that one.
The Leafs should win the series on paper, but it's Tampa. So with that being said, we'll move on to the Rangers.
The history doesn't matter for the Leafs. It's a regular playoff series.
Oh,
Two good teams going against each other.
Yeah, history doesn't matter for the Leafs. The Leafs.
History doesn't matter. History means nothing.
The Leafs are not haunted by history.
No,
or Mika Zibanejad, who the Rangers voted as team MVP, which really shouldn't be that surprising, honestly.
He's the best 200-foot player the Rangers have had maybe since Adam Graves.
Damn.
What he does in every situation, he's as reliable as it comes in all three zones. He scores big goals. He scores, and his passing has become quite overlooked because of the amount of goals that he puts up. But the chemistry that he has with Chris Kreider, especially on the power play, is remarkable. He's the best face-off guy the Rangers have, and this was coming from 3 years ago, where he was about a 37% face-off guy. Now he's over 55%, which for the Rangers is really good because the Rangers are awful in terms of team face-off percentage. So having someone that you can rely on there, there's not a whole lot you can say negative about Mika Zibanejad, and we got him for Derek Brassard.
I was about to say
Derek Brassard is a nice guy.
He's a nice guy.
Nice guy. It takes Derek Brassard 4.5 years to put up the stats that Mika Zibanejad puts up in one.
I don't know how that trade was made. I really don't.
And it's funny because I still remember the day the trade was made. I was out at Great Wolf Lodge at one of those indoor water parks.
Oh, God.
And I get the notification. And I was a little bit upset because I didn't know much about Mika at the time. He
played for Ottawa.
He was awfully utilized in Ottawa. Derek Brassard was coming off of 2 really strong years where the Rangers had deep playoff runs, and they have this trade, and they were the 6th overall picks in back-to-back drafts.
Yeah.
Brassard 1 year, and then
Brassard was the 6th overall in 2006, and Mika was 6th overall in 2011. 5 years.
Really? Was it that far apart?
That's why I looked at you like that, because you.
Okay.
Because yeah.
Wow, Zach's a draft nerd.
I have a draft. Yeah. There's just no way. Just based on where the players were at in terms of their career alone, Mika Zibanejad, you were right. He was horribly utilized in Ottawa.
Yeah.
But
so
there was so much more.
My initial reaction, again, because of what Brassard had done in 2 deep playoff runs, it meant something to Ranger fans. And so I had actually put something on social media. I said, not sure how to feel about this trade. And other Ranger fans were saying, you're going to love it. You're going to love Mika Zibanejad. This is an upgrade for this team. So the Rangers have made some questionable free agency moves over the course of their history. They go after the guy who's at the end of the career, who's had the star-studded career throughout. It's just what they do. But you look at some of these trades that they've made. They got Ryan McDonough for Scott Gomez.
Damn, I forgot about that.
And not good Scott Gomez either. There's an important distinction, because there was a very, very good Scott Gomez. Oh yeah. And then there was
Rangers Scott Gomez, not Devils Scott Gomez.
Well, he was pretty good for the Rangers that first couple of years.
No, he was fucking awful.
Thanks for the cup, Scotty.
They got Rick Nash for Brandon Dubinsky.
Oh my God, I forgot.
And then they got Brandon Dubinsky back.
Oh yeah.
Or no, they didn't. No,
No.
they got someone else back. That was someone else they got back.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of something else. Excuse me.
Gosh.
Dubinsky retired in Columbus, actually.
Yeah. And Dubinsky wasn't. He was good in Columbus, and he fit that system well. In fact, he probably fit that system better than Nash did.
He was a Blue Jacket. He was a very good Blue Jacket.
Yeah, but and he gets so much flack because his playoff point totals are never going to be what you would expect someone as good as Rick Nash should have. He just didn't score in the playoffs, but Rick Nash was a really good Ranger.
He's still Rick Nash. One of the more underrated players of the 2000s, Rick Nash. He's still got a good version of him.
Yeah.
He just kind of...
He wasn't Rick Nash, but he was still a good player.
He never really showed up in the playoffs, is my opinion. I mean, he was on that team that went to the Stanley Cup Finals in 2014. Yes, he was on that team that made a run to the Eastern Conference Finals in 2012. I think they were also in the Eastern Conference Finals in, was it 2015 or 2016?
So they Eastern Conference Finals in 12 against the Devils.
Yes.
14 they went to the finals against the Kings, and 15 they lost in Game 7 in the Eastern Conference Finals to Tampa.
It was. They did make it in 2015. Okay.
I was there. I was there for that Game 7.
And those are all moments where one would have hoped Rick Nash could have
stepped up a little bit.
But
especially when it's
shout out to Alaskan hockey players in Brandon Dubinsky and let me double check this. Scott Gomez, yes. We don't get to talk about it.
No, one of the Bruins goalies is also from Alaska, right? Am I getting this wrong?
Well, it's not Linus Ullmark.
It is definitely not.
It's
Sweden
not
and Alaska are very different places. I will concur there.
Is Swayman?
I swear Swayman. Alaska? I'm pretty sure. I think he's from North Pole, Alaska.
Jeremy Swayman, Anchorage, Alaska. Born in Anchorage, Alaska. Look at that.
I'm so proud of myself.
All right, Alaskan hockey players, shout out. Look at you guys
49th state hockey. This is where you get it.
At the next World Cup of hockey, they're going to make a Team Alaska because it's going to be Team Alaska versus the other.
We're not doing 3-on-3 hockey.
Mystery Alaska, very underrated hockey movie.
Never seen it. Need to.
God. So with that in mind, Ryan, who's your ideal matchup for the Rangers in the first round?
Carolina. The Devils' speed worries me, especially against with the second and third defensive pairing. Who, Trouba has been the physical presence, but him and Keandre Miller just have taken a big step back this year in their own zone. That third pairing with Braden Schneider, and I think it should be Ben Harper. I think it's going to end up being Nico Mikkola instead. I just like the physicality that Harper brings. But if it's the Devils, I can see why it would be Mikkola. He does bring more of a speed game to that third pairing. And Carolina isn't at 100% right now. The Rangers were 3-1 against Carolina this year, and they were 1-4 against the Devils. This was the Devils matchup as a Ranger fan would worry me.
And the Canes don't have Svechnikov, right?
That is an easy thing to forget with how the team's been playing well.
How good they are. Their best player's not there.
Yeah.
That's why I said they're not at 100%. And the Rangers just have seemed to have their number this year.
Plus, Frederik Andersen in the playoffs. Light him up. He's either going to shut you down or you're going to score 7. There's no in between.
And
he's going to give
even
up
then,
7
it's going to
4
be
times.
yeah. It's even then.
Touchdown
It's
3
which one
times.
will show up in 4 games. Will it be the one that's going to shut you down? Because if he shows up 4 times, it's fine. The problem is more often
Never
than not,
did.
we see the guy who's going
Never
to let
did.
in 7 goals.
Yep.
In the playoffs.
Yeah, the keys for the Rangers are going to be the play of the kid line. When the kid line is noticeable, the Rangers win. And also, I think the big thing for them is going to be the health of Ryan Lindgren, because when Ryan Lindgren is healthy, Adam Fox plays at his best. You can tell that he doesn't have as much trust, because it's been Nico Mikkola that has been his partner when Lindgren was hurt. He doesn't play with the same net front mindset, because he doesn't have that trust in Nico Mikkola behind him, like the trust that he has with Ryan Lindgren.
Adam Fox should be a much larger focus on any team potentially facing the Rangers in the playoffs than he actually is probably at this moment, which is a thing the Rangers could take advantage of, but it's,
Right.
as you said, if Ryan Lindgren is there.
Right.
Because there is something to that. You can only play as well as your weakest link, and for Adam Fox, he needs to have a guy who can understand what Adam Fox is trying to do. Because if you play the wrong way with Adam Fox, that can lead to it. It's like any offensive defenseman. If your guy isn't knowing where you're going to be, you're going to have Erik Karlsson type numbers where you're getting just scored on left and right.
It's very similar to McDonough and Girardi, and Dan Girardi is a better player than I think Ryan Lindgren is, but when Girardi got hurt, Ryan McDonough didn't play the same way with the same offensive force, because he didn't have that guy that he trusted for so many years at his side. And pairs amongst defensive chemistry amongst defensive pairs is so underrated. It's something that doesn't get talked about enough, that that these guys really, because they're playing with one singular person for at least 20 minutes a night.
I played defense, and the relationship with your defense partner will make or break your season completely. It's like you need to know that person better than you know how you play yourself.
Yeah, I grew up.
And if you have good chemistry,
I grew up a defenseman, became a goalie, but in one of the leagues that I played in, the year that we end up winning the championship, they give out, it's a version of like the North Show. It's Defenseman of the Year. They couldn't make the distinction between me and my defensive partner, and they just said, you have to share it. Because we were one of those that were the sum was greater than the parts.
Yeah, no, even Dallas has had that problem with Haskin, and that trying to find him, that guy that works perfectly with him, has been tricky. Like, they've kind of gotten it with Colin Miller, but you don't necessarily want Colin Miller as your number one, or with your number one guy. And the Leafs, I mean, for how many years now, haven't been able to get a guy with Morgan Riley.
Yeah. You really think about how lucky Colorado was that Cale Makar can just make it work like that.
Yeah, Cale Makar doesn't need another defenseman. Just throw him another forward. He'll be fine.
Genuinely cannot tell you who his defensive partner is. I think going into the season last year, was it Samuel Girard?
I'm on Daily Faceoff right now. I can pull it up. Colorado.
And here I'm going to date myself, but when Brian Leach was
Evan Taves.
Brian Leach was the guy on the blue line for the Rangers for so many years. His defensive partner would have never been a top pair defensive partner, except for being on the Rangers, because he was the guy that Brian Leach trusted, was Jeff Bukaboom. Jeff Bukaboom was a stay-at-home defenseman that would rough you up, he's your prototypical third defensive pair guy. That's what you would expect Jeff Bukaboom to be. But he was on the Rangers' top pair because Brian Leetch trusted him.
Yeah, it's amazing how like you can get like there's a lot of weird players who find their way on first pairings and first lines just because top guy really likes them. Every winger Sidney Crosby's ever had has been, you're on the first line.
Pascal
Chris Kunitz made a career doing that. Dupuis, have some respect.
Dupuis, excuse me. Sorry.
I mean, Jake Gensel went from being a nobody to being a top
better
12
wingers,
30 goal scorer, 30 goal scorer, 40
at one point.
40 goal scorer, Jake Gensel. Look at that.
Yeah.
He's a top 10, top 12 winger in the league right now?
Yeah.
At least.
Probably.
He's good. Hey, and look at Connor Sherry. Connor Sherry made a career because Sidney Crosby liked him.
Yeah.
He still do. He plays with Alex Ovechkin now. Like that's
Never
his
forget that time Jonathan Chicho found his way next to Joe Thornton, and it just really, really worked out really, really well.
Did he win a Rocket?
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Yes, he did. He won a Rocket, and then he was in the AHL like 3 seasons later. It was magical.
One-off awards are really fun.
Oh yeah, so much fun.
Yeah.
Speaking of, when was the last time you guys heard of a guy putting up 20 points in a 7-game playoff series?
William Nylander in about a week and a half.
Okay, well, that's not realistic. So we're just going to move. Connor Bedard made his everyone expected the Regina Pats to go on quite a run. Unfortunately, it ends in 7 games. Despite putting up 10 goals and 10 assists, Connor Bedard's team did lose in 7 games.
It was his turnover that led to the game-winning goal in Game 7.
Well, that explains why he looks really sad on the bench in the picture I saw.
Yeah.
So, since he caused that turnover, clearly Connor Bedard is overrated. What a joke. You should let him fall towards the end of the first round.
So Fantilli's going first is what I'm hearing, right?
Take the guy from Russia, and then Leo Carlson, and then
Is there another Hughes brother we can draft? Is there any more of them?
Does the other Jack Hughes have a younger brother?
All the Hughes. Just draft.
Like there's no more in the Quinn Jack Luke pipeline, but the other Jack there may be some siblings there.
Yeah. Connor Bedard's going undrafted, is what I'm hearing.
That's what I think should happen. I think Connor Bedard should go undrafted.
Connor Bedard, he's going to be a perfect Toronto Maple Leaf since he choked in games.
That's impossible. He's already going to be the perfect New Jersey Devil, just like Ryan's going to say he's actually the perfect New York Ranger.
No, the Rangers wouldn't even get that lucky.
No one would get that. No.
Never forget.
He'd somehow end up in Edmonton, and we'd all look at ourselves like, this is what makes sense.
The one year that we get number 2 is the year that Jack Hughes goes number 1 and we're stuck with Kakko. The year that we finally do get the number 1 pick, it's Alexis friggin' Lafreniere. And again, don't get me wrong. I think these kids have the shot to be really good hockey players, but they're
not what they were advertised as, to say the least.
I thought Lafreniere was going to be Crosby. Like
that's what everyone said about Laf.
So that's what I had thought for the majority of the time leading up to the draft. But the more I dug into it and the more I listened to the guys that were really plugged in, the name that I kept hearing was Jonathan Huberdeau. And I'm like, that's a big, and Jonathan Huberdeau is a good hockey player, but there's big difference between Sidney Crosby and Jonathan Huberdeau. And Laffy still has a long ways to get to Jonathan Huberdeau.
Yeah.
Yeah. He ain't Kobe Crosby.
The clear-cut stud from that draft is looking like Tim Stützle.
Yeah.
And he's so good.
Yeah.
But
it doesn't get talked about enough,
he doesn't get talked about enough, but there's a top prospect that Ottawa is actually deploying properly. along with Brady Tkachuk. Ottawa is a team that they've got pieces. They were putting it together sort of this year, but that's a team I really don't.
They need their own Devin Levi.
I don't want to be in the playoffs against any sort of Ottawa Senators team at all. I would rather face Matthew Tkachuk in the playoffs than Brady Tkachuk in any facet of life.
Is going to, at the end of his career, we're going to look at Brady Tkachuk and go, he was probably like a top player in the NHL every single year.
My favorite Tkachuk thing on social media is, I think I said this to you, Trevor. Matt and Brady do a joint interview, and the question is, which of the two of us would win in a fight? And Brady just looks over at Matthew, and Matt's like, "Yeah, no, we don't even need to." He would absolutely.
Brady's insane.
Yeah.
Like,
Brady's clinically insane.
What younger brother can do that to his older? What younger brother relationship is like that? That is terrifying.
Brady,
as an oldest sibling, I'm scared.
You know what? It sucks for any team trying to come up in the Atlantic, because what's the bad team in the Atlantic next year?
Toronto. I have no idea. Like, there is no bad team in Toronto next year.
Detroit's still. They're of the bad teams this year.
They have the most to put together.
Yeah.
Yeah. But even then, they might be okay next year.
They
might.
There's
not going to be a bottom feeder out of that division. They're all going to be competing.
The thing with Detroit is they have the most to put together, but they've also been slowly gathering these players. Mo Seidner's there. Lucas Raymond's going to be something special.
Who in the world knows what the hell Montreal is? Because they've missed how many player games missed due to injury has that team had this year?
Oh, they have to lead. They have to lead the league by a country mile.
And there's there's still a shot that Connor Bedard lands there.
If Connor Bedard lands in the Atlantic Division, they all should be scared of each other, because it's going to be a bloodbath all year. Because Boston might not be the best team in that division next season. We had no idea.
Well, now that we've had this conversation, I'm really looking forward to the draft lottery when Erik Karlsson holds up the winning number for the San Jose Sharks and looks at it and says, "Does this mean I'm getting traded?" And they just say no.
Sorry, we should have done that.
Win the Norris?
Yeah,
he has to. He has to.
Lock.
It sucks because I know that the Norris isn't one of those. In terms of overall value to the team, it's just who the best. And
it's not even that.
In terms of doing something that hasn't been done since the aforementioned Brian Leetch with a 100-point performance by a defenseman, it just sucks that the Norris Trophy is going to go to one of the worst teams in the league.
But that's just what the Norris is. The Norris is a broken award. It's been for the past 10 or so years.
Which defenseman scored the most points? That's all the Norris
defensive scoring title. It's a joke.
Because Adam Fox was when he won it was third. He was behind both Yossi and Hedman. But he had the best plus minus, and he actually had power play points. So
that's exactly but it's not at its heart. It's not a defensive award anymore.
I want a defensive defenseman award. I just want that to be awarded of the best. It doesn't just all around. I want to see who balances. I can step up.
Give Jonas Siegenthaler flowers. I'm with you, Trevor.
No, because Miro Heiskanen is one of the best defensemen in the league and probably will never win a Norris. He doesn't put up enough points. Miro Heiskanen is a special freaking player.
I love Miro Heiskanen.
We should be talking about him the way we talk about Cale Makar.
Every single game the Stars put up during second intermission, who's leading the team in miles skated, in fastest speed hit during the game, and every time it's Miro Heiskanen. It is so funny. He's 2.5 miles by second intermission, and he back checks. He probably shouldn't be back checking as much as he does, but if he gets caught, he's catching you. He's special talent, and him in the offensive zone is just as good. I love Mir Hayes. I hate talking to him with a burning passion. But...
Not a good interview?
No, and I don't blame him for it. Out of all of the Finns, his English is one of the worst.
Okay.
So he tries at least, or no? He grabs at words that he knows and tries to link things together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nils Lundqvist he's Swedish, but some of the other Finns are much easier to talk to.
Don't bring up that name around me.
I love Nils Lundqvist. He's such a nice kid. I love Nils.
Tool bag.
Did he?
I get to talk to him all the time. I love him.
He was a Ranger for a hot minute and then demanded a trade, didn't he?
Yeah, because he couldn't crack the top 7 defensemen, so he cried about it.
There was a guy on the Rangers who couldn't get playing time in the forwards and also cried about it. And now he's in Vancouver. That worked out really well for him.
What name are you thinking of, Zach? Hit me with it. Just give me a name.
Kravtsov.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that. I don't know. Sounds like a Rangers problem, not a Nils Lundqvist problem. He's my golden boy.
I mean, we can look at what the Rangers have done with some of their draft picks and bring into question their player development over the past several years.
Nils Lundqvist is Julius Honka if it went correctly.
No. Stop. No. The Julius Honka situation is its own brand of special.
Make sure to go read my Untapped Potential on Julius Honka.
My favorite part of the Julius Honka story is where Twitter went to war trying to define what Julius Honka is.
An offensive defenseman that couldn't score goals or get assists.
Yeah, Twitter blew itself up trying to come up with that definition.
I summed it up perfectly, though. An offensive defenseman who wasn't good at offense. Wasn't bad, but wasn't good.
And now he's
wasn't
in the
bad
SHL.
in his own end. And doing very well. Doing very well for himself.
As you would hope.
He's a good SHL player.
Good.
Yeah. Does that wrap us up, Zach, then?
I think so. We've talked about Julius Honka and how he's doing in the SHL. I really don't know where else it can go from here. Ryan, why don't you tell us where we can find you before we let you go?
Yeah. So the show that I had been hosting, I will be getting it back up again, is the Zero Technique Football Podcast. It's the one that I've run for 6-7 years now, more than that probably. BackSportsPage is where you're going to find all of my content. I'm on Twitter at rstern33. I like to interact a lot on Twitter. So you send me messages, I'm gonna reply. I love to have good conversations, no matter what sport, except the NBA. Nobody cares about the NBA.
I hate the NBA. Burning passion.
I watch basketball.
Zach likes basketball.
It's a good sport. It's a good sport. It's been fun. I
love college basketball. It's
been fun being a Golden State Warriors fan over the past 15 years.
Okay. How long have you rooted
Since 2003, 2004? I can name for you the entire starting lineup for them on opening
night. I'm not going in.
No. If it sounds as though I'm going into a thing that I've gone into before, it's because this is a conversation I've had a number of times.
Yeah,
Jason
because
Richardson
you're a Jersey boy rooting for the Warriors.
Jason Richardson in the dunk contest.
So it's funny.
Captured my 9-year-old heart.
My best friend.
And the Nets moved to Brooklyn.
My best friend has a Jason Richardson Warriors jersey because of the dunk contest.
I have a Jason Richardson, the City Warriors jersey in my closet from that era. It's Reebok, and that's
Zach,
how you know
you're
it's from
a
that
nerd.
era. I am such a nerd, and it's great. But no, seriously, Jason Richardson in that dunk contest, the Nets moving to Brooklyn, done. Easy. But anyway,
good for you, Zach.
Yeah, that is in a nutshell, that's why it happened. And if you haven't, go look up those highlights. That was a really good dunk contest like 20 years ago now. Anyway.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Wrinkles in the Crease. Please give us a follow on Instagram, Twitter, We will be back at you guys next week when we will have some playoff results and maybe even some more playoff previews. So,
yeah.
Thanks again, guys. We'll see you soon.